So good morning to everybody, and I'm Elena Bargagna from MemEx. Now we'll share my screen. So okay. Sorry. Wait a moment, because I didn't say the.
Yeah, we saw the presentation, but not in full screen, no mode. So
Yeah,
maybe we can just
I will share again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And while you are sharing, just to a reminder for our speaker for the guidance, just try to keep it within 5 minutes. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Good morning to everybody. Today we'll present the task number 1 of the SMARTA-NET project that is related on the guidance on transferability assessment and long-term sustainability of target shared mobility solution. First of all, as mentioned from my colleague Andrea, the purpose of the SMARTA-NET project is the support rural municipality in the delivery of a blend of informal and formal mobility service. The figure on the right, that is the Atomium SMARTA-NET, represents the different mobility solution identified in the EU rural context. So what can rural municipality really expect if they implement this solution? Naturally, thanks to the ERMN network, in this way, the most important thing is the sharing knowledge and experience through the between the stakeholders of the rural context. During the sharing knowledge experience, the stakeholder can share experience about the current mobility and transport practice successfully implemented in the different EU territories. In this way, we have already identified some good practice in the previous SMARTA and SMARTA-2 initiative and beyond. And also the financial operational aspect for the long-term sustainability of the identified good practice and the success factor and transferability potential target of the solution in terms of expected impact, risk factor, driver for success, successful implementation, skills, and so on. Naturally, to identify the different mobility solution in the task 1, we do an assessment and transferability analysis, identify the type of mobility solution, the context condition, the timing, the durability, and the financing. Identify the solution. We identify the solution from 2 main frameworks, from an organizational and a funding framework. So if the framework was formal and organized, or unstructured and formal. And in the other part, if the funding will be private, public, or both of them. The target group of this task, so the mobility operators are the rural municipality, naturally, that gives data and detail on successful local shared mobility schemes, the regional authorities that could give information about the transferability approach to a provincial local level, the mobility or transport operator that with their experience could help and support the building and the managing of a new mobility service, and the community representative, which involve the communities on the supply of the mobility service. The guidance will be presented in different form. There will be a catalog of the mobility solution, but also a brochure on the transferability assessment and long-term sustainability, and specific presentation for determined for a specific solution. Naturally, every version is available online for the ERMN members. So
podemos tentar esta versão.
So which will be your input that are welcome. These are the timeline of the task 1. We are in June, and for July, August, we have to release the catalog of the rural shared mobility solution. Naturally, it began the local dissemination of the catalog from our part, but also is welcome also if you share with your contact and the people interested on this project. After, in September, there will be the participation to the training of the module 1 from your site. In October, November, there will be the release of the guidance, as mentioned before. And after, your feedback on the released guidance, so your opinion, the successful part, also the better things to do. Naturally, along this term, we have to sharing with additional good practice cases. So if your new community, in your municipality, you have already implemented some good practice cases, you can share with us, and we can also insert inside the guidance and the catalog. So I finished with my presentation.
Thank you very much, Elena. Just in time, 5 minutes. Thank you very much for that. And indeed, if you have any information that you would like to share about good practice, please do so through our project partners. So we'll now pass to the task 2 guidance that will be presented by Bente and Rieka. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and good morning from my side as well. My name is Bente Grimm, and I work for the NIT in Germany, the Institute for Tourism Research in Northern Germany. And I would like to present some information about our guidance on connecting tourist destinations to resilient mobility networks. And the purpose of our guideline is to give information on sustainable mobility in rural tourism communities. And we want to inform the users of our guideline on how to connect tourist destinations to networks of mobility, which are sustainable. Because up to now, these two sectors often work next to each other without knowing each other, and not all of them network as good as they could. And we would like to show how one can adapt mobility offers to tourists' needs, because tourists have specific needs which differ from everyday life needs of the inhabitants of the rural regions. The guidelines should help the users to gain knowledge of sustainable mobility. We would like to show several good practice examples of inspiring and sustainable touristic mobility offers from different regions in Europe. And we would like to show how you can implement sustainable mobility solutions in your regions. We plan to have 6 different chapters. The first one is to show how to analyze your own situation and your challenges and goals. The next one is in giving information about coming together, networking, joining forces, and yes, working as a joint force. Then the third chapter will deal with the inspiration and information on sustainable mobility in rural tourism areas, because we think that it's really, really important that tourists get the information about the mobility offers before they book and while they plan their holiday trip. Because if they don't know how good the offer is, they will get to the region by car, and if they just have their car with them, they will use it, and that's less sustainable as it could be. The fourth chapter will deal with arrival and last mile and give you hints and tips how to get a more sustainable situation. And the fifth chapter deals with the mobility on site, with hints and tips as well for offers, touristic mobility offers, new offers, or better options for the existing offers. And the sixth chapter will deal with money and will show different financing and funding possibilities. The target groups of our guidelines are as well local authorities and sustainable tourism providers. And the ERMN members, they'll have the exclusive opportunity to read the guideline and to provide feedback before we publish it. And the participants of our workshop on sustainable mobility and tourism, which will take place tomorrow morning, they will be able to contribute with topics, or they can give us some information about their interests, and so we can include these wishes into our guideline. Our timeline is that we will have a draft version by August, and after that, selected experts and our lighthouse sites are invited to give feedback. We will present the guideline at the second meeting of the European Rural Mobility Network in October, and we'll have a pilot test, volunteer readers, and afterwards we will finalize it, and it will there will be a PDF version and a paper version in all languages of the European Union. That's all about our guideline, and if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bente. Really nice. And of course, if you have also any question, you can also use the chat box that is available on Zoom. So now let's move to Tish team. I think it will be André. So the floor is yours. I guess it will be you, André, that you will sharing your screen. Okay, great.
Hi, good morning. Just a second while I'm sharing the screen. Okay, I believe you should be already seeing the slides in full screen mode, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
Okay. So I'm speaking about our guidance book on integrating the rural dimension in sustainable urban mobility plans. I have just 4 slides for you, so I'll go straight to the point. We'll have more time to discuss this tomorrow morning in the workshop, and hopefully in the next months. And also our coordinator has already provided a very good scene setting about the importance of adopting public policies for rural territories. So I start with this definition that you can see in italic about what a SUMP is, that is extracted from the new urban mobility framework that was published a couple of years ago by the Commission, although I guess most of you should already be familiar with this concept. So it's an integrated strategic plan that aims to meet the mobility needs of people and business in cities and their surrounding areas, aiming for a better quality of life. And it's one of the pillars is integration, another one is participation, another one is evaluation. So with this slide, what I wanted to give you was a very high level contextualization of this activity that we are steering, because the SUMPs already counts on a very large body of knowledge that is available online on ELPIS. And in SMARTA-NET, we really regard SUMPs as a policy pillar of our project, especially because it's an integrated of other linked projects, other linked programs, and this is why they have been gaining increased importance over the last years, and will start to be mandatory now with the formal adoption of the TNT regulation. So here, our main objective is to produce a guidance document that can complement the other documents that I was referring that are available online, and really help to integrate the rural dimension across all the stages of the plan life cycle. And this will allow us to produce this document that might be helpful to other regions that also deal with the challenges of planning mobility services for the wider rural hinterland of their cities. Of course, this is aligned with the European Commission goal to leave no one behind, as Andrea has just said, especially addressing the needs of those that live in rural areas that suffer more from the lack of availability of transport services. And of course, the guidance document should also help transport planners to incorporate concerns about the surrounding rural communities with the tourism flows that exist between urban and rural sites. So there is this tourism ingredient, this tourist dimension that also needs to be considered, as Brandon said also. Then in terms of target groups, the main target audience are transport practitioners, regardless of the size of the city where they work. But of course, while drafting the guidance document, we will seek an active involvement of all the planners. This is why we insist that the document is expected to be co-designed with everyone that has a role or has an influence in transport planning, or even those that don't currently have a role, but know how it is to live in a sparsely populated area, that knows the hardships of commuting from a rural side to the cities and would like to educate themselves so as to have eventually an influence in the future. Because the point is that we really need to understand their practical experience on these matters. And this is not exactly information that we can gather online or through secondary sources of information. So if anyone in this audience, if anyone is keen to start dialoguing on these issues, you can drop me a message. And you can certainly attend the workshop tomorrow. Yeah. So with this in mind, just to tell you that the guidance book really relies on the feedback from those that work, especially in small cities and towns and umbrella organizations. So the first and last bullet point, they are also the primary target members of the network that we are establishing here.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, just to say that 1 minute left, if you could, to the straight point.
Okay, in terms of scope, the ambition is to identify the interplay of rural-specific challenges, assess the preconditions for rural mainstreaming, define key research questions for integrating rural perspectives into SUMP design. Let me tell you that this one is a fundamental step because it's where we are really going to look to the different steps of the SUMP with some rural perspectives in mind. So we are also going to tailor the planning approach to meet rural areas' needs and share best practices and practical recommendations for planners. And this is my last slide, just to give you a glimpse of, well, in a graphical format, to inform you about the three fundamental phases of our activity. So one, to explore the field, to understand the challenges. And here we are relying on the testimonials from interviews with the experts that we have already carried out, on the public consultation that we have ongoing. And I hope you can contribute if you point your phone with your QR code reader to the QR code on the left-hand side. That would be very appreciated, of course. And this phase evolves along the first half of the year. Then we start the phase where we will consolidate the knowledge that we have gained. I would like to organize some thematic focus groups to start discussing some aspects more in detail. Then we will draft the guidelines, validate with participants from the focus groups. And then finally, we have this dissemination phase in 2024, where we will be able to organize some capacity building activities and training activities to share all the information that we have collected in the previous phases. And I will finalize here, Andrea.
Thank you very much, André. Thank you for this very nice presentation. Let's move very quickly to the last presentation on the guidance that is on the financing and funding option from Elena again. So if you could share your screen and just try to keep it within 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Could you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. With this presentation, we'll introduce on the task number 6 related on the financing option for rural mobility. Most of all, related to the financial option, we have a lot of, there are different challenges. One of these is the funding for rural mobility without a clear set of target to reach. For this reason, one of the objectives of this task is the development of a clear and accessible guidance on funding sources, investment, and business model option to finance and operate sustainable rural mobility and tourism solution. Another challenge is the lack of awareness and understanding of potential sources of funding. This causes the necessity of provision of capacity building to local implementers to use the available funding instruments. Moreover, the task won't provide feedback to the European nation, to the European or nation policymaker about the challenges in the financing rural mobility as the limited time frame of the funding that doesn't serve the long-term financially viability of the mobility intervention and the non-planning of specific flow or allocation for mobility. So the drafted guidance will be a technical report on funding and opportunities implementation mechanism for the shared mobility, as for example, the ride sharing, carpooling, car sharing, community-based transport service, the active mobility, so the e-bike sharing, the pedestrian natural path, but also the integration between these shared modes and public transport. It will be focused also on the revenue hearing of the potential of rural mobility solution and the durability of the observed financing arrangement. In this way, the ERMN members will gain a complete report on funding and opportunities and a set of guidance targets to different users. So you will have help to develop a funding package for a rural mobility scheme. So how to apply for funding, identify the priorities of funding, the legal framework, the rules, and so on, and how to exploit the resources available in the local communities. These are the financing options that we have already identified. We have national, regional, and local funding sources, but also funding from the private sector, including startup and venture capital, a blend of private and public financing, the local resources as assessment and labor and so on, and also the commercial income, including sales, user fees, and other things. The target group of this task are naturally the rural municipality, the mobility operators, the local actors, the tourist operators and agency, and the lending association. Oh, I skipped one slide. So where you will really welcome your input. You could support us and give us input participating on the workshop target to assess local needs in terms of funding and financing option for sustainable mobility and tourism. But also you could participate in the survey available on funding opportunities at local level, support examination of the mandate framework, for example, who is authorized to act or to receive permission to act, provide feedback on technical reports summarizing the recommendation on funding opportunity implementation, and also update partners of the SMARTA-NET project about the new additional specific funding schemes for mobility and tourism available at your local level. The guidance, the format of the guidance will be also in a printed version, suitable for the target end users into all official languages, but also an online version accessible to the ERMN members. For what concerns the timeline, in September, October, we have the validation workshop with the ERMN members. After, from February to March 2024, we have the production of the first technical report and recommendation. From April to August 2024, we have the publication of the guidance for the different users, for the different users that we say before. And from September to December 2024, we have we will produce the guidance in all European language into a set of on the web. So thank you. I finished.
So thank you very much, Elena, for this presentation. So now we have finished the session on the guidance, and of course, just to let you know that we are producing newsletter on a monthly basis, or every 6 months there will be a big newsletter that will be promoted. And you, of course, you will get information about the ongoing guidance and the production of material, these workshops that have been mentioned by our speaker on that. So do not forget, if you have not taken enough notes about all these deadlines and timing that have been shared by the speaker. So again, just two last presentation. Again, one is on the evaluation side that we'll learn now, and the last will be about the training. So we'll now like to give the floor to the Panteia team for a short presentation on evaluation. I guess it will be already okay online. Thank you, Geert.
Yeah, wait, I have some difficulties as well, but do you see the full screen or?
Yeah, not yet.
Okay, wait. We'll do it differently and just do it like this. So hopefully now you can see the full screen.
Exactly.
Thank you, Andrea, for the short introduction on the task 7 of the SMARTA-NET project, where we will, where actually the aim is to evaluate the impacts of internal shocks on the lighthouse sites. So we will do a certain research to see what is the impact of recent shocks, for example, the COVID-19 pandemic, but also the high inflation throughout Europe on rural mobility. And that brings me to next slide. Because what we do is actually we provide some kind of free consultancy towards lighthouse sites. So what will be the benefits for you to participate when you're a lighthouse site in the task 7 of the project is that you will know more about the impacts of current shocks, as I mentioned, and also the impact on policy domains and key objectives from you. Well, but also to understand better the attitudes and behaviors of individuals towards new ways of sharing mobility. So think of shared bikes, on-demand, bus transport, etc. It also learns you more about how to deal with uncertainty in the future. So also how to make your current mobility policies more robust and more future-proof towards future shocks. For example, the global warming will bring also additional challenges to rural regions. So that's something you maybe also can take out of this task, how to better prepare to those. And also know how effective certain mobility projects in your region are, but also simultaneously learn about other mobility region, or sorry, other rural regions, and to see whether or which projects there work very well. And also to know more about how certain research has been done in other regions that maybe can also be applicable to your region. So that's the last benefit. And that also brings me to the last slide. It's a very short one, since indeed we also, I think, already running a bit out of time, is that we will closely collaborate with you, lighthouse sites. It's a very iterative process that we go through together. So we will contact you soon, so within a month, to see what we can actually do for you and where are your priorities and how this translates into the research that we will do for you. because now we have set up a common framework for our task, how to evaluate certain impacts on the rural regions, but this we want to make more tailor-made and see which specific things you would like to know more about and what are the most urgent research questions you have that we as Panteia can answer for you. So that's going to be next. And sorry for my phone. And that the end of my presentation, also good to mention I'm doing this together with my colleague Daniela Mattiuz, so she will maybe also contact you soon. And also feel free to reach out to us if you already have ideas of certain research you would have liked to see done in your region within the scope of what I just presented. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Geert. So really straight to the point. Thank you. And with now for the last presentation for this session, that will be from Tish team about the training program. So I will now give the floor to Luciana.
Thank you, Andrea. Good morning, everyone. I'm sharing my screen with you. So are you seeing?
Yeah.
Are you seeing the full presentation right now?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to introduce you the SMARTA-NET program. The SMARTA-NET training program is an outcome of the SMARTA-NET framework to foster the capacity of municipalities to develop mobility solutions in its territories to build its resilience. It's a specifically designed training for capacity building and empowerment of rural communities to cope with the mobility challenges and to build their resilience. It's focused on providing know-how and tools to address mobility and transport issues, and it is intended to be a participatory process. It's intended for the European rural municipalities, and the training will be carried out locally in local language. The sessions are suitable for urban and public transport planners, public transport mobility organizers, tourism stakeholders, the community representatives, associations, and other interested multipliers. It covers 4 different topics. The first one, the rural shared mobility solutions, where the trainees shall be able to identify the solutions that better apply to their community. And the second one about mobility and tourism cross-sectorial synergies and implications, to identify mobility solutions that also consider the tourism needs as means of ensuring resilience. A third module about sustainable mobility plans, where the planning process will be in the way that might be applied to the rural context. And the fourth one about funding and financial opportunities to access the finance needs in terms of investment and maintenance over time, as well as becoming familiar with existing funding opportunities and financing sources for the development of the projects. The training will provide guidance produced in the scope of the project and in the assessment of local needs. It will explore existing solutions to access the terms of their replication to the local context and stimulate and inspire and motivate the trainees to create new solutions for their territories. It will be a blend of a lecture mode and co-creation workshops with a duration between 4 to 6 hours, depending on the subjects. 2 or 3 workshops will be had per training session, and a case study will be chosen, and the participants will be invited to work in groups. So relating to the expected time frame, this is an indicative time frame since we will have to coordinate the training for the 15 countries. So the first module will be held in September, early October, and the second one about mobility and tourism, it will be in December, January. The third one, sustainable mobility plans for rural areas, March, April, and the fourth funding and financing opportunities in June, July 2024. So European rural municipalities, we would like to hear from you. Please let us know if you have interest on the training topics, whether the training program is suitable for you, your receptiveness to be a pilot municipality, your availability to host and organize in-country training venues, and if you are aware of the receptiveness of multipliers to deliver the training to the local municipalities. It's all from my side. Thank you for your attention. And please let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, so thank you very much, Luciana, also for this presentation. So now we have finished the presentation. So really, we now would like to hear from you, as said by Luciana. So if you have any question, now is the time for do that. Of course, I guess you are downloading a lot of information for all these presentations, but do not be scared because this presentation will be uploaded on the SMARTA-NET website, so you will have time to digest them and also to double check if you have any comments or questions and so forth.